The stories we've been listening to today come from women with different backgrounds, different experiences, and even different ages. But the one thing that we all have in common is that we've each taken the time to connect the dots of who we are with what we do. And that is very powerful. We know our why. Do you know why you're here? Have you ever spent time with 4-year-old children? They have an insatiable need to answer the question, why, right? Their questions range from the prosaic to the profound. Why don't crabs have eyebrows? Why does Mr. T pity the fool? Why did Eve have a belly button? Think about it. But somewhere between grade school and grad school, we began to quiet our why. Our need for answers to life's existential questions was replaced by the need for answers to the more mundane questions of what and how. Like, what is a W-4 form and how many dependents should I claim? Instead of being intrepid explorers for life's deep meaning, we become passengers on a bus, with scenes flying by the windows for mile after mile. Seatmates come and go, and we have opportunities to get off the bus at regular intervals, and yet the hum of the road dulls our senses until we're lost. I know because this happened to me. 10 years ago, I was working for a law firm in San Diego representing clients in the energy sector. I'm talking about big oil and gas companies. And by all accounts, we were very successful. One morning, I was driving into work in sluggish rush hour traffic listening to the news, and I heard that our largest client had just recorded a profit of $7.86 billion for the quarter. Now, my first response to this was, wow, that's our client. That's a lot of money. And my next response was, wow, that's our client. That's a lot of money. And as I sat behind the wheel of my car, I asked myself, where am I going? I had allowed myself to be absorbed by the cosmic size of a company that could generate nearly $8 billion in profit in 90 days. And for the very first time in my career, I asked, am I making an impact? Is this all there is? Is this my purpose? And I knew that I had to make a change. But before refreshing my resume and putting it out on Monster and playing career roulette, I decided to stop and think about what were the basic elements of a job that I really wanted. If I were just to set aside industry and not worry about the title for a minute, just what things from a job would make me happy? So I came up with a short list. I wanted to work close to home. I was tired of sitting in rush hour traffic and being in my car for more than 10 hours a week. I wanted to report directly to the CEO. I had done this before, and I knew that I had the skills and experience to help a CEO turn his or her vision into reality. I wanted to make as much or more money than I currently made. I didn't think that my family should have to suffer for my decision to change careers. And I wanted to make a positive impact. I had no idea what kind of a job I could find that would help me do this, but this was resonating with me very strongly, and so I put it on the list. Then I refreshed my resume and put it out on Monster. Not long after that, I got a call from a recruiter with a communications manufacturing company just 4 miles from my home. The position reported directly to the CEO, and they knew what my salary requirements were. So I thought, that's 3 out of 4 checks off my list. I'll go in for the interview. So on the morning of the interview, I'm sitting in the reception area when suddenly the reality of placing purpose over prestige hit me. The room I was sitting in looked nothing like the law firm reception areas that I had grown accustomed to. Law firm reception areas with those beautiful architectural details, the plush carpeting, the big bookshelves with those giant leather-bound volumes, and soft lighting, palm tree in the corner. This room looked nothing like that. The room that I was sitting in was finished in an industrial veneer with shiny waxed floors and fluorescent lights. And I sat there on the couch in my tailored suit as people in blue lab coats with their name embroidered across the front walked past me, and I thought, what the heck am I doing here? I don't belong here. This is crazy. And with every minute that passed, I had to fight the urge to get up and walk out of there and get back into my car and drive safely back into the parking garage of the law firm where I belonged. But within the hour, I found myself chatting comfortably with the CEO of this company, who spoke to me with passion about his dream for creating a different kind of company. At this company, they set aside 10% of their quarterly profits and gave that money away to nonprofit organizations around the world. And then he told me their mission and purpose: to be a self-sustaining, profitable communications company which positively impacts the lives of others today and in the future. This company had a why, and I had a why. So I took the job, of course. And for the next 6.5 years, I got to experience what it was like to make an impact. As Director of Strategic and Operational Planning, my job was to help people connect what they did on a daily basis with our strategic objectives and our higher purpose. And we grew that company from $10 million to $200 million in revenue during that time, and we gave away millions of dollars to nonprofits. And I witnessed the power of ordinary people working together to create extraordinary results, not for the bottom line, but for the opportunity to help other people, people whose lives had been devastated by earthquakes, fire, disease, hunger, and homelessness. Now, I don't want you to get me wrong. It was not a perfect company. We had our share of problems like anyone else with people and processes and power, but our purpose always regrounded us. And it was a very powerful time. And after 6.5 years, I started my own company to teach others what I had learned about the power of purpose. I even wrote a book called Work on Purpose because I knew the power of being connected to something that really engaged you and made a difference. And I started to build a list of clients, both individuals and organizations that had become disconnected with their why and needed help getting it back. When I speak about my book, I'm often asked the question, you quit your job in order to find work with purpose. Do you think that everyone who is unhappy in their job should look for work with purpose like you did? I have a two-part answer to that question. First, the Bureau of Labor Statistics finds that Americans spend 32% of our lives at work. And over our working lifetimes, that adds up to 99,117 hours. But at the same time, Gallup research finds that just 30% of us are engaged in our jobs. Just 3 out of every 10. Just 30 out of every 100 people are engaged in what they do. That's abysmal. Because if we are not engaged in what we do, we're just passengers on a bus. So if we don't take the time to figure out what it is that would engage us, how do we expect other people to do that for us? And if we don't know what that is, we may be trading one unhappy job for another. You might think that the question of what it is that would engage you is too difficult to answer, but really, you can ask yourself some simpler questions like, what did you want to do before the world should on you? Or what is it that you love to do so much that you'd be willing to do it for free if you could? Or what is it that you've done before that's left you completely exhausted and exhilarated at the same time? What's that? Because when you can answer these questions, you'll be ready to reframe your career identity from how can I make a living to how can I contribute. Second, when you do find out what it is that would engage you, and it's not possible to find that in the company that you're currently with, then yes, If you are a millennial, don't kill time with safe career placeholders. Find something that calls you. If you're in your peak performing years and you have no passion for the company that you're currently working with, you're giving the best years of your working life to fulfill someone else's passion. If you're a baby boomer ready for a second act, go for it. Don't be afraid to change careers or start your own company. Hire some millennials and bring on some peak performers who are just as passionate about what you are. Think about it. What if every American worker took the time to figure out what they really wanted to do? How much more engaged would we be? How much more productive would our companies be? How much better off would we be as a country? There's no passion in settling for a life that is anything less than the one that you were meant to live. Find your passion, connect with your why, work on purpose. Thank you.